Okay, so for this very last electron configuration, we're going to look at the Fs. Now, the Fs are probably the most confusing, but again, once you get the hang of it, all this stuff is so easy. So if I was to look at here, we notice that the Fs are these two families down here. Okay, these are the Fs. Now, they get tricky as determining where they belong. But if we go back to this chart, actually, let's just do this real quick. Let's look at an example. What is the electron configuration for erbium? Erbium is ER, it's number 68 right here. Now you'll notice to get to 68, we go through all this part, blah, 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 keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, now look at right here. 55, 56, cesium, barium. Then once you get past barium, something happens. It's almost like a teleport. It's like a warp. And once you get past barium, which is the 6 S's, this is the 6S, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 period, 1, 2, 6 S's. Once you get past those, you warp into the F's. Now, these F's is actually, this right here is actually the 6th period, because this entire period, this entire row, squeezes into this tiny little area right there. And this period right here is what this whole row actually squeezes in right down here. So this is technically the 6th period, this row I'm scrolling across. The bottom part here, 89 through 102, is technically the 7th period. But we don't call them 6 and 7. So if we go back to barium really quick, 56, okay, again, this is 6S. But what happens after the 6S? Well, let's look at my chart. Remember the pattern. It goes 1S, then 2S, then 2P, 3S, 3P, 4S, then it does something weird and goes back to the third and says 3D, then 4P, 5S, 4D, did I say 4D already? No. 3D, 4P, 5S, 4D, 5P, 6S, then once you get past the 6S, which is barium, then you go into what are known as the Fs. And even though the Fs start in the 6th period, we're going to pretend they start in the 4th. Just like how, if you remember, the D period, the D orbital, their energy level was like, technically say they go up 1, but you can another way of saying that is you subtract 1 from their period. For the Fs, you subtract 2 from their period. So if I look at this, right here, even though this is the 6th period, and when I warp into here, this is the 6th period, I'm actually going to write it as though it's the 4th period. So, let's just show you. How do I get to erbium? Well, to get to erbium, I first have to go through the whole 1st period, which is 1s2. You're pretty good at that by now. Then I went through the entire 2nd period, so I went through both of these elements, lithium, beryllium, so that's 2s2. I went through boron through neon, went through all the P's in the 2nd period. That's 2p6. Now I'm in the 3rd period. I went through both sodium and magnesium. So there's my 3s2. I went past aluminum through argon, 3p6. And now things start to get a little bit trickier. I went past potassium and calcium, 4s2. But then I'm in the D's now. And even though this is the 4th period, I pretend it's the 3rd. Since I went through all of them, that would be 3d10. I go back into the P's, and again I say I'm in the 4th again. I went through gallium, through krypton, went through all these elements. That's 4p6. Now I'm going to slow down because it's getting a little bit trickier here. I'm in the 5th period, so I went through rubidium and strontium, 5s2. Then I went into the D's, and even though this is the 5th period, we're going to say it's the 4th, if we're going to pretend. So, yttrium through cadmium, I think that one is. We went through all the D's right here, so we say 4d10. And then we went back into the P's, we went through indium all the way through xenon. So we're at 5p6. Now here's where it gets tricky. I went past cesium and barium. 6s2. But then when I get right here, I warp into the F's. And even though this is a 6th period, we're going to say it's the 4th. We're in the F's. And then I count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is erbium. So that'd be 4F12. And there you go. So again, just to wrap things up real quick, just talking about orbitals, there are 2 max S's. There's just 2 elements max for the S's. There are 6 max elements for the p orbital. There are 10 max elements for the d orbital, and if you count, there are 14 max elements for the f orbital. But that's all you do. Again, the tricky part is remembering that when you get to the f's, you say there are 2 energy levels up, so you subtract 2 from whatever period they're in. Let's just do another one real quick. Why not? Let's do bismuth. Okay, let's just do Bi right here. Again, it's number 83. So to do bismuth, I'm going to keep everything I have here, except I got to change it now. So for example, to get to bismuth, I had to go through elements 1 through 82. So I had to go through all the F's here. So I went past erbium, so I'm going to change this now. I don't know if I have enough room. I might have to make the font smaller. Slide it over, maybe. In fact, let me get rid of that. I'm gonna have to make it smaller. Let's change the font size. Let's go 18. Okay, more than enough now. More than enough room now. So to do this, now that I've wrapped up all the F's, I went through 4F14. Now I'm at 71. This is the D's, but again, for the D's, even though this is the 6th period, we're going to say it's the 5th, because if you look at the pattern, after the 4 F's, we go to the 5 D's. After the 4 F's, we go to the 5 D's. So 5D, I went through all the elements in the 5th period, D's, or technically 6, but 5D10. Then I get here to 81, so now I'm in the P's in the 6th period. Remember, P's stay in the same period they're in, so it's 6P, and then 1, 2, 3 is bismuth. And there you go. Again, it's not any more difficult. You're doing more of the same. Here's the only big tricks. Again, if you're in the D's, you need to take 1 less period. If you're in the F's, you take 2 less periods. So again, what I'm trying to say by that is, even though this is the 6th period right here, I'm going to write a number 6. There we go. Even though this is the 6th period right here, we say the 4th. Why? You just do it. Alright? It just happens that way. And even though this is the 7th period right there, we call it the 5th. And if you look in the periodic table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7's the biggest we will ever get period-wise, because we never go past. In fact, the biggest element we have currently is 109. Okay, these elements that have 3 letters means that they aren't 100% proven yet. Basically, they're man-made, but they're not. They have to be tested numerous times in order to prove them. But the biggest element we have as of right now, according to this periodic table, is 109. I think there's actually, we go beyond that. I think many of these have already been proven, but we are not at 8 periods yet. Right now, the biggest we have are 7 periods. So there's nothing new, there's no new row down here. But again, that's all you do for the F's.